Today we're taking a riskier than ever journey into the uncharted territory of Sonic Frontiers. Is this open world adventure a groundbreaking leap forward for the franchise, or a misstep that's left fans feeling lost and confused? We're talking cyber prisons, AI dads, and the potential for a franchise-changing shift. So fasten your seatbelts. We're in for a wild ride.
SEGAbits presents SEGA Talk, a podcast talking all things SEGA with your hosts, George and Barry.
Look, it's a giant talking egg. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the master here. So what?
Hello and welcome to SEGA Talk 150, a milestone episode. I'm your host, George, aka Sonic the Hedgehog, I guess, in this instance. No, I'll be Eggman, and you could be Sage.
Nice. I was hoping for that, dear father.
Yeah, I was going to say right now, it would be weird because now it's like a father-daughter relationship. It's like, yeah, it's like not
That's
good.
Okay. I'll be your daughter. I don't know. There's Barry and George fans out there, right?
I think I'd make a better Sage, but whatever.
Slash fiction, Barry and George.
I mean, so today we're obviously talking about Sonic Frontiers. Came out on November 8th, 2022 to celebrate Sonic's big 30th anniversary. The game was released on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series X, and Series S, Xbox One, we're not going to go through all the variants, and Nintendo Switch and PC. So everything had this game. So it's a wide release. Great for companies. It really shows you how far we've come when you could play Sonic Frontiers on the Nintendo Switch. And I don't own the copy on Switch, but I've seen gameplay because of this. And it's an actually interestingly well done port that I was actually shocked that it's very playable on the Switch. So it's insane how, I don't know, we could literally, like, remember when we used to talk about Sonic Generations on the DS being a totally different game?
Right, yeah.
So it's interesting that you can now play this next generation game directly on it. So yeah, very cool. So what's your history with Sonic Frontiers, and what did you think of the game leading up to its release?
Well, before I even get into that, I have to say happy 150.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of wild that we're still going. A lot of podcasts fizzle out.
Right.
I think even our own Swing and Report show kind of changed around the 90s and then became just kind of like a whenever we feel like it podcast live. But this one, it's still going, and I do have to give a thank you to our Patreon community. We'll forego the big infomercial for everyone, but we are on patreon.com/SEGAbits, and I'm just going to give a shout out to Michael S., Daniel Andres, and Zachary Ross, who are our premium tier pickers. They pick a lot of the episodes, and this one's actually a Daniel Andres pick. I hope he doesn't mind that we did delay it because we wanted to make it episode 150. We wanted it to release around the time of Sonic and Shadow Generations. And he has a whole host of memories that we're going to put at the end of the show because they talk a lot about things that we want to, talk about ourselves. We don't want him to jump the gun. Plus, it's longer, so we want to, it's show producing stuff, behind the scenes stuff. Anyway, he is on YouTube, the Y2K Reviewer. He has a big video that he just put out where he talks about his love for Ryan Drummond and how he will always be Sonic the Hedgehog, his favorite voice actor. But now let's talk about Sonic Frontiers.
Oh yeah, so what's your history with Sonic Frontiers, and what did you think of the game leading up to its initial release?
So initially those very early trailers what I love about these episodes is we get to talk about like games that just recently came out, and yet going back and just thinking about something like 3 or 4 years ago seems like ages ago, because not knowing about Sonic Frontiers seems so weird to me now, because I know too much about it.
Right.
But man, yeah, I think what was really exciting is like it was like, wow, there's no real gimmick here. There's no classic Sonic. It does not look like a throwback game. Like, what is this? And we didn't know at the time. It was just this weird symbol and like Sonic running. It looked very serious. And so at the very least in the lead up to it, I was very excited, very intrigued. And it felt like finally, like, at least from the very early trailer, like a Sonic game that felt a little more grown up. And I think we had been seeing so many kiddified or Sonic games like Sonic Forces that kind of played like mobile games or smartphone games almost.
Like they were like almost like minimalistic in a way where like even the level design looked like it was overly cartoony.
Right. Levels were short. They implemented things where it was like timed missions that would appear on the map screen and go away, almost like you would see on a mobile app. And not that that's a bad thing, but when this is a series that had Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, it felt like we just moved so far away from that. And yeah, it was really, Sonic was almost like a budget title for a while. And so seeing Frontiers come out, I was very excited. And I was honestly like, I was all in. I was like, really hopeful that Sonic Team would pull something off. And I ended up buying it for every platform that I owned.
Wow.
The Switch version is really cool. I love having Frontiers on the go. The PlayStation version is actually the one I believe played. No, actually the Xbox one I've played the most. The PlayStation one I played for like 10 hours or 15 hours for the review. And then the Xbox one, I was like, this is so much better. So I like made it up to the point of where I was with the PlayStation one. It was such a chore. And then I was finally like, oh, good. I get to see new cutscenes finally. And yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about it on our 150th episode.
So my history, I agree with you with the whole trailer. I think everyone would experience the same thing, the way that they promoted it. I was a little scared at first because we're coming off Forces where they like gave us a bunch of like cool ideas and you're like, oh my god, they let us run wild. I think we did some Sega news bits on Forces where we're like, can you imagine this like big rogue gallery of just like enemies, and in the end it's not what it is. So I'm like, I don't want to get my rug pulled, but this time it felt like everything was kind of bland. I don't think they wanted to give anything away on the storyline. And it's weird. We'll talk about the game right now. So there's a lot of stuff where I was like, I thought it was going to go a totally different direction than it did. A lot of people right away, the biggest complaint, and I guess we'll just take it out of the way before we get into it, is its comparison to Zelda Breath of the Wild. A lot of people right away when the first trailer hit were like, grassy, mossy scenes in an open world mountain landscape with the grass is like, the grass blades move. Right away people said Zelda, and they did take a lot of inspiration from the open world of Zelda, and it shows. But I think once you play the game, I think it does go a different direction. But initially, just looking at it, it gives you that I feel like a lot of games do that. They're easy to judge like that,
I guess so. I mean, I'm a huge fan. I don't play that many non-Sega games, but one I really loved playing. I only progressed like 5% of the story, and yet I put in like 50 hours of gameplay, was Just Cause 2. I love that game. And when I played it, I was like, man, if Sonic was in this environment, this game would be awesome. And that, to me, Sonic Frontiers is like the Just Cause 2 of Sonic. So for me, I wasn't really thinking Breath of the Wild, because for me, that game's such a slog. And it's like with the breaking weapons, and he's so slow, and
Yeah.
Whereas with Sonic Frontiers, you go from one end of the map to the other. It's so fast.
I think that's one thing that this game definitely isn't. It doesn't hold you back. If anything, this is probably one of the games that like has the fastest Sonic in any game because of the open world. So let's get into some of the story and characters. I think that's a pretty important part of this game, or I guess it is for some people, right? So Sonic Frontiers is a groundbreaking open-world adventure game that takes the iconic blue hedgehog to a mysterious ancient island called Starfall Islands. Stranded and separated from his friends, Sonic must explore the vast landscapes, uncover the island's secrets, and battle powerful enemies to find his way home. Meanwhile, his arch-nemesis Eggman has set up a cyberspace prison known as Cyberspace on Starfall Islands. He's using the digital world to trap Sonic and his friends, as well as to harvest the island's powerful energy source. So, this is the blurb to tease the story. I think it doesn't give away too much. Obviously, it doesn't really talk about the AI and all that stuff. But the last few Sonic games have felt very not in Sonic's world, with Forces being the last we saw modern Sonic's world. But it was a what if Eggman won type of story, so it almost felt like it was a Elseworld story that never really happened. It was going to get erased. So what do you think of this trapping you in an island? Like, we still haven't actually gone back to playing in Sonic's world, at least, that we would consider his actual landscape that he would live in, right? When's the last time we've been to it?
I that's one of the things I really liked about the game, and that's what excited me when we started to hear like Starfall Islands. It's been so long in the Sonic franchise where like the game takes place on an island.
Right.
As a kid, it was like, oh, there's South Island, there's what was it, West Side Island, Angel Island. Like that's the original trilogy. And then with the adventure games, like he, I guess, made it to like a continent because it was just like all these cities. And I was like really yearning to go back to these worlds of like mysterious islands with biplanes and stuff, and Sonic Frontiers delivers that. I think if they do make a sequel, I want to see island like travel on the Tornado with like real like flight from one place to the other. I think that would be really fun. Maybe even give us like a mini game between the islands of like a little shoot 'em up or something, like the gummy ship in Kingdom Hearts. But I think that'd be fun. But yeah, and we know that Ian Flynn worked on this game,
right,
at least story-wise. Mm-hmm. So if I remember correctly, Sonic Team came to him. The locations, the characters, the situations were all already there. Yeah. But I think he was the one to look at this and be like, all right, let's get back to these fantastical islands with Starfall. Like, Lost Hex was so weird, wasn't it? With Sonic Lost World.
Right.
What was that? It was like, initially it was kind of exciting, but then it's like you look at that on paper and you're like, Sonic went into like the upper atmosphere where a hexagonal world exists,
right,
with like weird colorful monsters that are, I guess, the Sonic World equivalent of like dragons.
Correct.
But their designs are so bizarre that they don't look like any Sonic character. They look like they're from a different franchise. And I don't hate Lost World and the situations and characters, but Sonic Frontiers just feels so much more like a Sonic game. And with the Coco, they're like
right.
they're the Chow of this game. And with Starfall Islands, it's like South Island. It's so Sonic-y. I love the setting.
So bringing it back to Ian Flynn is one of the questions here. This is the first game he's worked on. So he's been writing the comics with Archie since 2006. That's quite a long time. I think a lot of fans consider him one of the better writers that have touched media for Sonic. Some people have some issues with him, but I think overall, I think he's consistently kept a fan base that's very rabid, at bay. Right? It's very hard to keep him that long. Yeah. So how do you think he did here for the first time, even though you already explained that he wasn't 100% in control? What do you like? How do you feel that he did with the aspects of the characters and how he handled them here?
I think he did a very good job with what he was given. I think if he started from scratch, this game would be incredibly different.
Right.
But I do appreciate the kind of characterization that he infused with all the characters. I think he even did a little bit of, if I'm misremembering, like lore cleanup, where it's like, yeah, Tails was kind of like a hero in Sonic Adventure, and then he was scared in Forces. Why is that? Well, let's actually touch on that and like patch that stupid whole. I wouldn't call it a plot hole, but it's like a character hole. You know
or
what I mean?
Character
like,
regression, and I think it's been a meme, and we memed it and got a lot of attention for memeing it, where it's
right.
Sonic.
And so
it's like Tails in one game and then Tails in the other one.
Exactly. So I appreciate that he like found those situations to infuse that, and have characters like refer to even like the comics get a very light reference, which was cool, and it made the Sonic franchise feel a lot bigger and deeper, and it made things feel like they were a lot more impactful. And I think we'll see that again with Shadow Generations, which he also is doing the story for.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he will do for Shadow what he did for Sonic and his friends here. And I'll also say that, like, yeah, once you become a person like Ian Flynn, you're going to have your lovers, you're going to have your haters. I mean, in Star Wars, they have Dave Filoni, who has done... He's basically the Ian Flynn of Star Wars, because he's made more content than anyone now. He has had his hands in more things than anyone now. And, at a certain point, you've been doing it for so long that you're basically the guy that's made more story content than anyone else, even George Lucas. So with Ian Flynn, like, he's done hundreds of issues of comics. He's starting to do games. He's done. Did he do Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog or something?
He was one of the helpers. I think a lot of people in IDW kind of helped with that. Yeah.
So I mean, you're seeing this fans finally becoming like
the creators,
the creators of the story and righting wrongs that they notice. Because let's be honest, like I like Sonic Team, I like Iizuka, but these guys aren't like story experts. I think it's very rare to find a video game developer who can also make great story. We even see that with Kojima. Like, he's not the greatest storyteller.
No.
Like,
but
he can make a damn good game. And,
oh, yeah.
But, yeah.
I was just playing, actually, Death Stranding the other day and was thinking about that. When you said that, I was just thinking about the ridiculousness of that game sometimes.
Right, and you even see that in Hollywood. Like, Megapolis from Coppola is supposed to be terrible. And
but people
like,
are talking about it, so...
I know, I really want to see it, though. But anyway, going back to this, yeah, I was very happy that he was involved. I just hope that he doesn't stay on for so long that he kind of loses his edge, or just starts to kind of, like, take over the franchise instead of being, like, a caretaker, that he is right now, where he's taking the characters and taking the past and crafting really good stories. But I'd hate to see him start to become like
Ken Penders,
the overlord. Yeah, Ken Penders,
where he has his own little universe where he creates everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Sonic Frontiers introduces a new concept of a digital world, digital corruptions, and other aspects being talked about in this title as part of the plot. What do you think about this new introductions? I feel like it's just a plot point for this game, and we're probably never gonna...
Yeah, it's just a method to sneak in, like, the classic sort of stages. And honestly, I think it was a cost-cutting measure because, they reused assets from Generations and Forces, and even stages themselves were all remixes of classic stage designs, which honestly I think was a test for the team. I think Iizuka knew that he had a team of people who were not very good at design, at level design, at least not as good as like we saw with Generations, because a lot of those people left, and we had a very small team on Forces, and so it really did feel like they were like kind of making them learn on the job by being like, recreate these classic stages so you understand why these worked so well. And I don't mind that, but it definitely felt kind of same old in a lot of those digital stages. And even weirder, like, there were some gimmicks that like suddenly appeared, and I'm like, what? Sonic's on a skateboard? Where is this from? It's like one stage. I'm like, why is this not like in more stages or in the main game? And also the fact that the controls are different between the two is really weird to me.
Right.
Like, I don't know. So if there's any weak point to the game, it would be that.
And I was going to say, I didn't put this in the notes, but what's your overall thoughts on the game's graphics? A lot of people were saying, some people are mixed on it. I think aspects of the game look beautiful. Some textures come out looking a little lower generation. But overall, I was actually impressed that it ran at a steady frame rate myself. What was your thoughts on the graphics in this one?
Oh, yeah. Overall, I thought it was a really beautiful game. It did have its downsides, but that's honestly just because it's such a fast-moving game that you can't, I think, render the graphics that you can render at the speeds that Sonic moves. I also disagree with people on the pop-up. I think it's honestly necessary, because if you did not have... If you looked out into the vast world and saw every single platform and every single, like, loop-de-loop and everything... It would be like that I Think You Should Leave sketch where he like went out with all of that makeup on, and it would just be like, there's too much shit on me. You know, like you would be looking at the screen and you're just like, this is overwhelming. What am I looking at? The whole sky is littered with shit. And instead it's really just like in your vicinity. I think the only mistake they made is not having them like digitally appear, because that would be like, oh, it's an in-game thing. Like they're being generated as Sonic appears, but instead they just kind of popped in, you know.
Right. They could have also designed like walls or mountains or little ruins to cover it, so it wouldn't be so jarring in level design. That's true. But yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues is the pop in. I guess for a lot of people, some people don't. Like you said, some people it's easier for them, so they won't have sensory overload with a gajillion things. But so now we're going to be talking about a little thing called characters. You ever hear of these things? So the first character, we got a underground character called Sonic the Hedgehog. According to his little bio for this game, he's the world's fastest supersonic hedgehog, in second to none when it comes to speed. He came to Starfire Island in search of the Chaos Emeralds and is now scrambles to find his lost companions, guided by the mysterious voice of an unknown origin. One of the few things about Sonic in this game is that Roger Craig Smith was forced to re-audition for this role. Is this true, right? Because I remember, I don't know if it was debunked or not debunked. I put it in here because...
We'll talk about that after you read through this.
Right. And his voice in the game is quite different from the original. According to an online sources, this is a quote, it was also a creative decision for Sonic's voice to sound more mature and deeper in all languages, which gained a mostly positive reception by English, Japanese, and Italian Sonic fans, but more mixed reception from French, German, and Spanish Sonic fans. Hey, man, it's hard to please the French, German, and Spanish people, man. Trust me.
What did Sonic sound like in Spanish?
I actually never heard it, but... Oy,
Hola, Tails. Tails.
I do
Donde
wonder.
está mi rings?
I do have a clip, I guess, of Roger just talking in a video here. We can hear a little
Big,
bit.
what are you doing here?
Talking to one of the best
How did
characters.
you get here? What even is here? Of course you are. I guess it wouldn't hurt to detense for a second.
So, I mean, just a couple seconds. So we don't have to. But
yeah.
What do you think about his, I guess, portrayal again of Sonic? Because this is a re-portrayal of Sonic somehow.
Right. So if we remember, he stepped down from the role, or he posted on social media that he was like done, and it almost seemed like it was not his choice. Mm-hmm. And then, like, no content really came out that required Sonic to speak for like a year and a half or something. And then slowly we started to get to like releases that would need a talking Sonic, and people were going like, "Who's the new voice?" And then he like was like, "Hey, I'm Sonic again." And from what I recall, and I'm sure in the comments people will correct me, but from what I recall, after Sonic Boom ended and when Sonic Prime, the Sonic movie and Sonic Prime were coming, he was not the voice of Sonic. And so I think he took, especially with, I think, the announcement of Sonic Prime, he took that as he is not welcomed back as Sonic. I think he took that as a recast. And maybe there was some misinformation, or maybe it was like, well, your contract is up for renewal soon. And maybe he was just like, guys, I'm done.
Or
so I think there was...
I mean, or even then, it's like you have to say no to a Netflix and a movie, and what else is going to happen? Like, are you slow? Like, you just get the the video game paycheck, which is probably less than Netflix.
Right. Voice of Robotnik, what's his name? I just blanked on his name.
Mike Pollock?
Mike Pollock even said that, like, he only voices Eggman for like a day a year sometimes.
What a beautiful
Like, it does
job.
not take up much of his time. And so I think with Roger Craig Smith, there was a big gap between projects, and all the Sonic stuff was happening with other voice actors because of issues with, Canadian productions only hiring Canadian actors, and the movie only having like movie actors, even though Colleen was Tails. And so I think there was a misunderstanding, and I think he either got frustrated and walked away from the role, or they were like, oh, we can renew you once the next game comes out. And he was like, so I'm not going to be doing Sonic stuff for a year and a half. I think there was just some misunderstanding, and he took it as, we're not welcoming you back. And it could even been that his contract ended and they were going to renew him, but there was no reason to, because he had nothing to do for like a year and a half. That could be possible. But in regards to the voice, I think it's a smart move to lower it a little, because this was a game where he delivered a lot of dialogue, and it becomes grating to hear Sonic talking like this,
especially when it's
most
like
of the game.
Some really sad line, right. The tone.
So you're saying it was genocide and the children died too? Whoa!
That's not going to be
right.
And so, with his age, he's older. I think it's easier for him to do a lower voice. Those are my thoughts.
I was actually surprised doing this research that it was a Sega-wide thing, that they wanted this from the beginning. So that's what surprised me. I thought it was just here in America, and I'm also surprised that the American audience liked it, and the Mexican, German, and French fans are like, no gracias. Anyway, let's talk about Amy.
Right.
She's a lively and enthusiastic girl with a spirit for adventure. Her physical body became trapped in cyberspace and now lives in the virtual existence that cannot directly interact with the physical world. That's her blurb. She has a sort of expanded character in this this game. She's no longer obsessed with being Sonic's girlfriend, and it was actually interesting watching her dynamic with Sonic being an actual sidekick and a normal Sonic character that isn't just basically, well, when are we going to go on a date, Sonic, every 5 minutes, because it's written by someone that does not understand anything, I guess. But anyway, that was interesting to watch in a thing. Well, what are your thoughts on Amy Rose in Sonic Frontiers?
I liked her in this. I like the direction they're taking Amy. I think if anything good came from Sonic Boom, it was that they showed that Amy works even if she's not like lusting after Sonic. And it was cute in Sonic CD because she was like this little sprite that would like run around and chase him, and it was fun in Sonic Adventure. But even then, towards the end of that game, I feel like she kind of became her own person. And so again, like with character regression, they wanted to make her like the obsessed, like Miss Piggy, basically, where she's like, "Why won't Sonic marry me?"
I think the sad part is that there's a actual female Sonic fan base that is literally Amy of this game.
I know one of them. Yeah.
No bueno. Don't do that, people, please.
No bueno.
It's Fang is the actual cutie. Everyone knows.
Yeah.
Tails, a genius mechanic who sees Sonic as a big brother. While piloting the tornado, he got caught up in a mysterious turbulence, lost control, and crash landed in cyberspace. I know. Personally, I can't say much for Tails outside of the Final Horizon DLC, but character-wise, he sort of falls back in his insecurities, but he is vocal about it with the player instead of just screaming and running off screen and never kind of addressing any of it. So there's this pretty, intimate moment with him where it's like, bro, I know, I've been scared, bro. We know. Don't meme me on the internet anymore, guys. And now I'm like, no more Tails crying memes.
Yeah.
What do you think about Tails in this game?
As I said at the top, I'm glad that Ian was working on the story at least, because he got to address the character regression of Tails, and I think this was kind of a turning point for the character. Also, just like a random thing I thought of, Sonic Frontiers plot is very much like Power Stone 2. Where the biplane is flying over a mysterious island, and then without warning it crashes, and then they're all imprisoned, and there's these portals to different like places.
I guess it is a little bit like it.
Why is that?
I think it's an easy way to just put people into some sort of new world and let them have at it. So the next, I think Knuckles is a bigger deal in this game than he is in most games, especially lately. A powerful, hot-blooded warrior and a fitting rival for Sonic. He is thought of as being the last degraded Echidna tribe and continues to protect the Master Emerald on Angel Island. Our treasure hunter is on his way on his own quest when he is pulled after researching a mysterious structure by a sage into the cyber cage on the desert island in Skyfall Island. Knuckles as a character, Skyfall. I put Skyfall here, huh?
Yeah, like James Bond.
Right, that's a good movie. Actually, I think Casino Royale is the best one that he's done. But regardless, Starfall Island. Knuckles as a character does have a bit of self-reflection when he admits to being a guardian of the Master Emerald has restrained him from exploring the world, which is kind of an interesting take on him. I never really thought of that. What is your aspect of Knuckles? And would you like to see him actually be left to leave the island by Sega and have his own video game where he goes on his own adventures, like a road trip?
Yeah, I mean, they do that a lot in the comics. They have like the Chaotix watch over it, or even I think Rouge would help out if she can be trusted. But yeah, I liked Knuckles in this. Obviously, the main plot kind of ties in with a lot of Sonic Adventure lore that has the echidnas involved. My only complaint is that I really liked the animated short that they did, and I wish that it was like patched into the game proper so that you could watch it.
Or have a recreated episode around it.
Yeah, I love these animations they do, and I really wish that they would integrate them into the game, even if it's like later with DLC, like have it pop up in the menu. It seems kind of weird to be like, oh, it's it's a prequel story, but it's only on YouTube.
And we'll talk about, I have a section where we talk a little bit about the prequel, but the next character we have here is just a little character we probably never see a lot, an evil genius and Sonic's nemesis. It's none other than Dr. Eggman. His latest nefarious plan is to take command of a secret technology once harnessed by the mysterious ancients of the Starfall Islands. Unfortunately, he has now found himself trapped in cyberspace. Eggman is trying to exploit the advanced tech of the alien ancients, which kind of look like Chaos Zero from Sonic Adventure on Starfall Islands. Here he created Sage, but he finds himself trapped in cyberspace. He treats Sage like a project that's a failure, but slowly warms up to her and have a father-daughter type relationship. What was your thoughts on the father-daughter relationship, these characters? It was kind of like a piece of trash that became a daughter to Eggman. A little harsh sometimes, I thought.
I liked it. I also liked the Eggman journals, and I liked how...
That's the best. Actually, that's the next question I was going to ask, but go on.
Yeah, no, I like that they... and again, this is an Ian thing, tied the Gerald Robotnik and Maria in with him and Sage. I think it's kind of... It goes with the Robotnik or the Eggman family tree, where I think they're ruthless people, but they also are caring for their blood relatives. And in Eggman's case, I guess Sage is the closest thing to a daughter for him, and so I like that. And I mean, I have daughters, so I like that aspect to the story.
I thought it was a nice, good aspect. It's interesting that she's the bad guy, or promoted as the bad guy, but there is no technical bad guy in this game, and no real technical
Yeah.
conflict outside of the robots and alien, whatever those
Yeah,
creatures
but they're
are.
just security systems.
Exactly.
Right?
So technically, in the end of the day, I mean, Eggman is just being greedy, but there is no, like, I guess, too much nefarious things going on here outside of...
Wasn't the moon? The moon is the bad guy.
Right. Moon, destroy it. That's why I knew they should have destroyed it. Anyway, most of the good bits, like you said, were unlockable through Eggman memos. What are your thoughts of doing these through, like, when games do, like, lore dumps, but they do it through, like, tapes and memos? Because in my opinion, if you can't put them in the game, I would like to have them, because that was my favorite part of Metal Gear Solid, the first game, where you had all those weird tapes you could collect and, like, codec conversations. So I was like, how are you going to put this in a game, you know? So I like that they just tried to give them to me instead of, like, dumping them in the cutting room floor.
Yeah, no, I like the inclusion of them. I wish they did more of a Phantasy Star Online route where they were, like, littered around the stages. And, yeah, and you could actually, like, maybe, like, you touch them and, like, a CG or, like, a hologram of Eggman would appear and, like, speak the tapes, like with Red Ring Rico leaving behind her memories, instead of just being in a menu. But still, the stuff they talk about was really fun. It really humanized Eggman, and you can hear in the performance with Mike, like he really does a great job, like delivering actual lines of dialogue. And I think, you know, between this game and Sonic Boom, he's been doing a lot more Eggman work than in the past, where it was like one voice. Like, imagine when it was like a racing game and like a mobile game were the only things that released, and he'd be like, so what am I saying? They're like, just say, yeah, I did it. Oh no, I lost the race. Thank you. Bye. You know, see you in 2 years.
I feel like he's been getting better every year. It's crazy, especially when he does little fun things where he does his jokes. I think the whole cast has been on point when it comes to bouncing off each other. The next person, which I don't even know who the American voice actor for this person, Sage, is, but is a mysterious girl who appears before Sonic as he travels to Starfall Islands. She warns Sonic to leave immediately, but what could her true intent be? This is a mysterious baddie, I put that in quotes, of this game, an AI created by Eggman named Sage, who thinks of Eggman as her father. At the start of your meeting, she's more calculated and logical, but as she interacts with Sonic, she becomes more human, telling jokes, having hope, showing you that she is kind of maybe a bad guy, but meeting Sonic kind of changed her in a weird way where he didn't even have to fight her. Just it kind of made it feel that way when you're doing it, but probably not in the overall run. But it felt like she slowly was breaking down. She's like, oh, I guess we could do this. So it showed you that just Sonic's optimism could beat a bad guy, or even becoming a threat. Because there is technically no threat in this game that's like... It's like, there's no bad guy that's introduced here as a character that's a bad guy.
Right, yeah, exactly. Oh, and the voice actress is Ryan Bartley. It's a woman named Ryan. Okay. Not a guy with a really good feminine voice. And I'm sure there are people out there who are like, oh, she voiced this anime character. But I'm looking at her credits. She voiced Mini Stay Puft Marshmallow Men in Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Congratulations, one of the best characters. You got it.
So she's the one's going, you know,
perfect.
Yeah. But no, I love Sage. I think she's my favorite new Sonic character.
Nothing
I
quite
really
like her.
Yeah, I like the design. I like the idea that she's an AI. She's in the same stable as like Metal Sonic. You know, there aren't that many like creations from Eggman who carry over from game to game that aren't just like destroyed in the same game or have like character. And honestly, you think about it, she's Metal Sonic's sister, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's true. And so
yeah,
I got a couple. I like her a lot as a character. I thought it was a really unique way of introducing a sort of a bad guy, but not like it really beats your expectations for a Sonic game, which is always like big bad guy. He's evil. Look at that. Beat him up.
Do you prefer her red and black look or her blue and white look?
Oh, red and black reminds me more of Shadow. Yeah. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
So
but it's interesting, right? Like she turns from evil to good, and it's like Sonic and Shadow colors. Anyway.
Interestingly enough, Ian Flynn said he didn't know what Sage looked like when he wrote the character. And another fun fact he dropped, he said it was a nod to Sonic Amateur Game Expo, aka Sage. If you put each,
I called that. I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, when as soon as Sage, and I found our email correspondence. I won't read it because it's obviously like
private.
With but we did share more information than we should have about Sage very early on when Polygon were the first. So we're not in trouble. Polygon posted an article, and we just newsed what the Polygon article said, and then Sega was like, "Oh, don't share that." And I'm like, "Is it not real that there's a Sage AI program?" And they were just like, "Don't share it."
With a gun? It's just a picture of Sonic with a gun? They should just start
and I was like,
when they ask you for takedowns,
should
it should just be the Sonic Maniac with a gun picture. It's like, take it down.
But like, why did Polygon get that info? Where did they get that? I don't know.
I think Polygon just does whatever they want. They think they're so big. They are like, we don't need your scraps, Sega. Get out of here.
Right.
But anyway, what do you think about the homage to Sonic Amateur Games Expo?
I think that's really cool. And I'm surprised that she's not like their mascot in their promotion.
I know, exactly. I would have made it.
Be.
So the next one is, this wasn't actually posted in anything else, but I like talking about them. The Cocos. Cocos are small, stone-like creatures with holes in their ears and mouth, inspired by Hanawa statues. I don't know what that is. Let me put you on full screen. So they apparently they don't evolve like Chow, but could change their heads depending on which island they're from.
Can.
Additionally,
true.
They have an elder and a hermit Coco, which we have images of them right here. And,
I love those guys.
So the elder and the hermit Coco have the best moss effects in any game I've seen. I'm always like just staring at their moss. I'm like, whoa, look at the moss on them. That's some mossy stuff.
Look at the moss on that guy.
And okay, so while Takashi laments that Cocos are different from Chaos, Chows, I mean, they grant you powers, and they aren't pets like Chows in Sonic Adventure. In the Egg Memo 11, it is heavily implied that an exposure to the Master Emerald for a long time will transform a surviving ancient into a Chow. Fun fact, the sound of their steps is taken from the Night series, specifically the sound when Knights flies through a ring. So, what are your thoughts on Cocos, their connection they serve to the story, and their weird tease connection to Sonic Adventure and the Chows?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this game is not Sonic Adventure 3, but I think their inclusion really kind of tips the hat to the Sonic Adventure games, and I like that connection to them. I don't know if we're going to get into like the whole Ancients part of the story.
I don't have them too much on the story, but when we bring them up a bit, you could talk about them, or you want to talk about them here. You can. They're connected.
Well, all I was going to say is that I just think it's interesting that like they got into this history of like the evolution of Chow, but they don't give us all the information, so it gives fans like something to like discuss and speculate on. Like the Ancients are from some other planet or some other dimension, but when they die they turn into these things, but then when these things are near the Master Emerald long enough they turn into Chow. And so it's just kind of cool to think that these things are like ancient Chow.
Right.
You know, it's a level of lore I never thought I'd be getting in 2022, and I'm glad that they went there, because I don't know, I like that kind of stuff. I think it's cool.
Are we thinking that they're going to be transformed next or in any time to actual Chows and have some sort of like resurgence of these beautiful pet creatures?
I don't know. I do think it was a missed opportunity to not have like Hard Light make a smartphone game with the Coco that implements QR codes that show up in the game so that you could like give them items. Yeah. But maybe for the sequel. It boggles my mind that Sega, being so into making smartphone Sonic games, have not made our Chow app that has game integration. And it can carry over from game to game. You could have a Chow app going for 15 years. and have it integrate with each game.
Imagine you could bring your whatever your chows are from your mobile to your 3D highly rendered PS5.
Yeah, you can do that with connectables
Right.
on the Xbox 360. They did that, and yet you can't do that with Chow. Come on.
Give it a step. This is the first one. I think they did a lot of new stuff.
I had a
in
baby
these games.
tiger. I had a cute little white baby tiger, and he lived on my phone, and then he lived in the connectables. It was
Beautiful. Yeah. So let's talk about the gameplay and islands. The biggest changes in Sonic Frontier is the gameplay, as it introduces new mechanics that will be moving the franchise forward in the mainline entries. According to Sonic Team, they spent the first half of its 5-year development making and breaking prototypes. One of the biggest struggles for the team was getting Sonic's unique level design and in a 360-degree open-world environment to work. They pushed the Hedgehog engine to its limits, and they had to make new updates to accommodate the... I'm assuming how much data is transferred through this open world. First of all, do you think the gameplay in the open zones feels fresh and thought out? And did it actually translate the modern Sonic gameplay to this new open world Frontiers gameplay?
Yeah, initially the first time I played the game, I was very confused. I was like, Sonic feels slow. This is like so weird and mysterious, and like I don't know if I'm going to get overwhelmed by this whole new game system of like XP and like collecting things that unlock keys that open chaos gates, which open like cyberspace. It all was very weird, and that just clicked with me, and it was like second nature. But what's so funny is I'll walk away from the game, I forget everything, but then when I go back in the game, I remember the system again. And I can't think of any other game that's really like that with me. Like, if you told me, how does Sonic Adventure work? I can tell you. But, like, with this game, like, yeah, I think they really were risking a lot by making such a convoluted system with, like...
They call it a, what do they call it? The grind? I forgot what they call it. It's something...
A progression.
The progression system, there you go. And, Yakuza's very popular for having that, where when you're addicted, you're addicted. And when you're not, it's like, all right, I'll try to figure it out. But when it clicks, you're like, oh, man, I spent 30 hours in this game.
Can you remember it off the top of your head?
I remember that, like, you have to
how
connect...
does Frontiers function?
Okay, so I have to collect hearts to collect keys. I think the keys do the cyberspace. The hearts do the whatever cutscene you have to do. And I think there's another object you have to collect. But I just remember it was cyberspace gives you these other types of like unlockable... The keys unlock the cyberspace, and then the cyberspace unlocks the boss battle, I want to say, or the sub-bosses. But I'm not 100% sure.
The Cocos increase ring
your
collecting or speed.
Right.
The fruits increase... What do the fruits increase? I guess your skills, right?
I think it's the
and then,
but I think the Cocos do that when you give them to one of the elders. But it's not that super.
And then there's XP, and then there's the hearts, which further Amy's story. But then there's the key that opens cyberspace, right. And then cyberspace unlocks the Chaos Emerald Vault. Exactly.
Yeah. The thing is that when you play the game, you just have to see all the objectives on the map and go, okay, I've already did these and this, and then it'll literally warn you, oh, this is open now. So you don't really even have to understand the system. Just know there's objectives on your map, and if you do them, they'll unlock
100%. And I wouldn't say it's a downside to the game. It's just, it's kind of funny to me that, like, sitting here, I've played this game for, dozens of hours.
Right.
I can't remember it. But it works, so I'm glad that it works, and I think they did a good job implementing the system and also making it so that you don't need to remember it, because it kind of plays itself. And honestly, like, I'm happy too that the XP thing, and we'll get into it, but I'm just gonna say, like, I'm glad it didn't go to the very end. I hate games where you unlock like some really cool moves in like the final moments, then unless you want to replay the game. Bayonetta, I think, did that, unfortunately, where I was like, oh, I just got some really cool moves, and I finished the game.
That game is made for people that are going to replay it and try to get platinum and everything.
True.
So it's one of those weird things.
Yeah.
So Sega took feedback from past titles very seriously this time, and they conducted playtests in North America every 3 to 4 months. And by the way, Save America, if you guys want to give me an invite for these playtests, I'm 100% willing to go and tell you what I think. Which, according to them, is more frequent than past games. According to them, these feedback sessions, especially feedbacks from children, help define the Sonic-like qualities of this game. This was all spurred because Sonic Forces' low Metacritic review scores, which was basically a modern Sonic game. Like, they literally played that game very safe. They kind of basically said it's a darker Sonic Generations in a way, but like kind of lazy because there wasn't that much content. So they kind of went and like gave you a ton of content in this game. What do you think about Sonic Forces now that it's next to Sonic Frontiers? And were the critics tough on Sonic Team with Sonic Forces?
So Sonic Forces really felt to me like a budget Sonic Generations. It felt like a lot of team members left Sega between Generations and Forces, and they basically were like, well, let's make a follow-up to Generations with a smaller, less experienced team that mainly did work on Sonic Runners, wasn't it? That was where some of the staff came from. So they have a lot of smartphone and mobile experience. And then on top of that, they were like, let's bring back classic Sonic, but his stages no longer really feel like when I played Generations Classic Sonic, I was like, this feels like Sonic Team from the classic days, like going back and making a 3D game. This is awesome. Like, the layouts are so fun, the gimmicks are so fun. It wasn't the same in Forces. And then on top of that, they had Buddy the Wolf, the avatar, which was like interesting, but it just felt kind of half-baked and like both overpowered and underpowered at the same time. I'm like, I can clear the entire screen by pressing a button? This is really weird.
Right.
And I think the fact that they removed the ability to pick and choose what abilities Sonic had, which was something I really liked in Generations, and I think they finally brought back in Frontiers, was cool. But yeah, putting this next to Forces, it's like comparing like an epic AAA game to like like a smartphone game, to be quite honest. Like, I like Forces well enough, but like now looking back, it feels like Sonic Dream Team to me. And I like Sonic Dream Team, but like that's a game from Hardlight on Apple TV.
I have to agree with you. I think Forces was, like you said, very small scope, and you could tell they like took all the feedback seriously because they literally got Ian Flynn. They're like, people on the internet don't hate you, dude. Please come and help us. And they fired who they were using.
And I think it was coming off of Sonic Lost World too, where like the story and character decisions were just so bizarre. Like Infinite. Who is he? Oh, he's a wolf bounty hunter gang. Like, what? Where is this guy coming from?
And did you see his origin?
You created.
There's even more bizarre, where it's like he got bullied by Shadow. So Shadow's like a psychopath technically, because he like killed his whole squadron, and then he like laughed at him and called him weak.
I've said it again and again. I think Infinite should have been revealed to be the modern Fang.
And
like, that's what happened to him. That would have been so epic. That would have been like if Boba Fett took off his helmet and he was Anakin Skywalker. You know, like, it's just like, who is this mysterious guy? Oh, he's some like guy we haven't seen for decades. But instead, it's just, again, like, Sonic Team can't make at least in the Lost World Forces era, could not write a good story.
So this is definitely an improvement, I would say.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's go to some of the gameplay mechanics. We won't talk about them all too much. Maybe some of the interesting stuff we'll touch on. So this game, obviously, you mentioned, has a skill tree. For the first time, players can unlock new abilities through the skill tree system, where you collect Cocos to increase speed and ring capacity. And new update adds Cocos to increase Sonic's boost gauge. What are your thoughts on leveling up with Sonic? So, personally, you said a little bit of it, but personally to me, I don't like the level up system. I thought it was like, I forgot it was in the game until I went back. I think it's not needed. I think Sonic could just be as fast in the beginning. as it
Right.
should be. I feel like a level up system is cool with some games that like limit you a lot. So like games like Link, it makes sense because that progression actually matters a lot when you can't even climb a mountain. When you're playing a game with Sonic where you can already run everywhere, but you're just running there faster, it's like might as well just let me run as fast as I wanted to run in the beginning.
Right.
So to me, it's like it doesn't work. You have to make Sonic very cumbersome to make the leveling matter, and I don't think you should do that to Sonic. So, what do you think?
I agree. I don't think they should have done leveling up for his speed or ring capacity. In the story, it makes sense because Sonic's been like injured and like he lost a little bit of himself and he's regaining it. But this can't carry over to another game. Like we can't kick off a new game and like be like, oh, Sonic's back to 0 again. However, I did really like the combos or the moves that you would get.
So this is actually the next thing, the new combo move. So it's Sonic Boom, a projectile blades mid combo, a Speed Burst, a Wild Crash is some of the names, Stomp Attack, and Recovery Smash. What are your thoughts of Sonic going from a D-pad one-button game on the classic era to now having an arsenal of moves? You know what? In some of the boss fights, even made Sonic look like a DBZ like anime, where he like grabs them and throws them against the mountain. It's almost like they went full out. Like, we know what you guys want. We know you want to see a badass Sonic. We're gonna give you that. And I thought they did that good. But what's your opinion on that? Because I feel like everything should evolve. Even Mario Odyssey, you know, it has.
Yeah, no, I like them. I think in such a big game like this, combat would get really boring if Sonic only had like his basic moves. Even Sonic Adventure Sonic dropped into this game would start to become old with just like, you know, you can't really experiment with anything. But thankfully they added all these moves, and I like the progression of unlocking them because I think by the halfway point in the game I already unlocked them all, which means I was like not stressing about having some awesome move that, you know, becomes available like right before the last boss fight. And it makes sense within the story too, because Sonic has kind of some new powers and abilities that he hasn't had before. He's like evolving. It's kind of like with the new Godzilla and Kong one, where Godzilla's like, oh, I'm gonna hibernate for a bit and like get super pink powers. Like, you know, that's kind of Sonic here. Like, he's evolved. And I don't know if this will carry forward, like maybe leaving Starfall Islands he loses that Psy-Loop ability, so that like in the next game he'll be like nerfed a little bit. I don't know.
So that
it's interesting.
That's another thing we're talking about. Air tricks, which are already in other games, but they also did the Psy-Loop, which you talked about, a story-based skill that allows Sonic to create effects by running in circles. This basically lets you spawn an infinite amount of whatever you need by just going in circles, making the game literally like, do I really want to go over there and jump all those things, or do I just want to advance the story by going around in circles until I get everything I need? And you could do that, which is an interesting aspect, which kind of makes the game not challenging, but in the end, I saw myself going, no, I want to go see what's over there. I want to see how to get up there. I don't like. I was trying to unlock everything I could, regardless of me being able to just go around in circles and doing it. So, I feel like somehow it worked, even though I would probably complain about it in most games. It worked in this game. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a natural progression for like the gameplay, the ability to be able to like leave behind an energy trail and like draw shapes that do things. I really liked learning that doing a figure 8 would give you a temporary like unlimited speed boost. I was doing that all the time. I also liked the ability to like make little rings, and then rings would pop out of the ground. It actually felt like a throwback to Sonic Adventure, where Knuckles would dig into the ground and find random objects, and Tails would do his like weird like thing that would cut the grass, you know. And so it was cool to have Sonic to be able to do that. And also, I never really spammed the system to the point of not actually playing the game, but there were moments where I was like, man, I really could use, because I think it even like would give you a key sometimes.
Yes.
Like it would give you like rare items.
Right.
And so it was like sometimes I'd be like, I have one more key, and then like I get one from doing that, and I'm like, oh, score. So it's like it's a nice little treat to have, and it's great for rings too, because then if you're like about to die, you can just do a little side loop and get some rings, which is, I think, one of my big negatives in modern Sonic games when you're doing big boss fights. Like, they'll have rings littered throughout the stage, but then once you collect them, they don't really respawn.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're screwed.
Because you get hit
and
once.
I don't like that. Yeah, and so I like the fact that you can just do a little ring side loop and they just pop out of the ground.
That's the thing with the Sonic system with the rings compared to like hits or whatever with Mario. It's always precise with Mario, but with Sonic you could sometimes cheapen it out where you get the rings over and over again, but then sometimes you're screwed in one hit and you're like, cool, dude, all right.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but was the last Sonic game to have a game over screen Lost World?
I think so.
It could have been. I don't think Forces had. Like, they've really moved away. Even when they do these remasters, like Sonic Origins, they don't want to have game over screens anymore in lives.
So some of the things that they added was a Phantom Rush, parry system, and oddly enough, the spin dash was updated into the game later on. It wasn't in there. It's too powerful to put in the base game.
That's my big complaint, is that the updates really changed the base game, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface with them.
Right. They fix a lot.
I kind of regret being a fan, because
Day one?
if I was a casual... Yeah, like, it's kind of like with Shenmue 3, where they patched it so that you don't need to eat so much food, and I'm like, well, I already did that, so...
In the PC version, they have it so it has a patch so they can just take it away, which is great.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
So before we get into the islands, what do you want to say about the sub-bosses and bosses in this game? Like I said, I thought the sub-bosses were really, really cool when I first started the game, but then they just had too little variety of them. I feel like the game was so big that you're like, oh man, this again, I don't want to do it.
Right, yeah, I mean, I like the Bayonetta take, where it's like, characters that once would be like end bosses are now just like normal enemies sometimes. Right. I really like that, but I didn't like that. Yeah, they did become very samey, and thankfully they kind of lived in their own little areas, so you just had to remember to like steer clear of them, otherwise they would like look at you. They're always like, you know. It's like, man, imagine if that just happened in your day-to-day life. Like, you just walk into work and your boss is like,
stay away from that area. Stay away from that area and bury me.
And I mean, that became a meme after a while, which was so funny. You're like enjoying this beautiful setting, and then it's like, squid.
Yeah. I thought it was
I'm glad they didn't lock you into a arena.
Right.
Like, you could run away from them and it was done.
Right. I think they were cool when you first got there. It would be cool if, like, I don't know, they dropped some sort of, like, big cosmetic item, and they were kind of, like, really, really difficult, so they were just bosses, like, oh, if you beat them, it's an actual achievement, instead of them, like, and, like, make them really unique, like, really put some thought into them, so people, like, and then make the other things just, like, stages, I guess, and then their own bosses.
Which one was your favorite of the...
I like the one that flies. I like the one that flies a lot.
Me too.
Yeah, that was sick. I was like, oh.
And you like, run on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of almost felt like the end boss to Sonic Colors, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Some of these bosses remind me of, and they did them pretty well. Like, sometimes I screwed up and I would fall off and it was annoying. But once you got the hang of it, it was so epic doing it all in a sequence. It was really cool. So let's talk about some islands. I don't know if you ever heard of this, but Starfall Island is made up of how many islands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 islands, which should have really been 3, to be honest with you, if we're going to be honest with each other. The first one is Kronos Island. Coco Island. Is it Coco or Kronos?
Kronos.
Okay, Kronos. Okay, because I thought sometimes I screw up the names. The first island in Sonic Frontiers and Starfall Islands, not Skyfall, ancient ruins from the past civilization, and yes, we are on a graveyard of the ancients, and it's a green mossy forest island. Fun fact: the Switch version of the game had an unused Kronos map that was actually much bigger, which combined the later islands that we'll be talking about. Orianos and Rhea. Island. We're supposed to be, which they look exactly like Chronos Island. So, unsurprisingly, there was supposed to be one big island. I'll tell you why they cut them later. But what's your thoughts on the opening island? It's very familiar to, like, I guess, Green Hill Zone and Sonic Adventure stuff, right?
Yeah, very iconic. I love that big tower in the background and like the kind of anticipation of reaching it and then climbing to the top of it and looking off, and it's very cool. And yeah, it is kind of like the Green Hill Zone. It honestly, the whole game kind of felt like Planet Wisp, like aesthetics, which I loved. And it was such a shame that in the original Sonic Colors, Planet Wisp was like so like 480p, you know, like it looked so SD. And then when you got into Generations, like it felt a little better, but still it wasn't quite there. And then this was like, man, I kind of want to go back to like Planet Wisp in Sonic Frontiers graphics. But yeah, they really, that's why when people are like, oh, it looks so non-Sonic-y, I'm like, it honestly looks like Sonic Colors stages to me. With like graphical upgrade. But yeah, I love the Chronos Island. I love the music too.
What do you say that this is like? This is kind of a different take. It's an island take on Sonic, which is something we haven't seen, right?
Yeah, it's like Myst. Yeah, it's like Myst Sonic, which is so weird, but it works because Sonic's always had islands. And yeah, the aesthetics, the music, it's very it's very Sega CD too. Like if you go back and listen to the Echo the Dolphin Sega CD soundtracks, yeah, they're very like mysterious, new age kind of. You throw it on and you get a massage. Like that's this game. You
vibe and peaceful vibes.
Oh man, I'd love to get a massage to the Sonic Frontiers soundtrack. That'd be great.
And all I would say about Chronos, the island, it's the easiest one to traverse, obviously, because it's the first one. The forest, I like the moss, and I like the forest effects. I thought it was very interesting. I like the eagles that swoop by while you go by. It's very enticing to the eyes, and I think it's the perfect length to get you to the next area, which is Ares Island, which is pretty sand dunes and other desert structures, giving you a good change from the mossy green Chronos Island. So this is a big contrast. I think getting you here, you're like, all right, this game is cooking. When you see this, you're like, I think, and I don't know what your thoughts on this, but I think Sonic desert stages are underrated. I think desert stages in general are underrated. And I like the way this does dunes and all these little cracks and corners. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I really liked how they mixed it up with Ares, and that was the second one. Like, that really made you feel like each island was going to be incredibly unique, which they unfortunately weren't. But I do like the little crevices and like cracks. It was kind of like visiting the Grand Canyon. My only complaint is that the layout of the stage was almost like there was a wall in front of you. To get like on top and over, and there were only a few entrances, and it's just kind of like traversing. It's not impossible, but it's just kind of a headache to get around it. And the layout itself, at least for newbies, is kind of frustrating.
And there was like holes,
but not as frustrating as the next one. The next one,
right? I was going to say this one does have like holes randomly where you're like, oh great, I'm stuck and I have to figure out how to get out of this hole. But I like the aesthetics of it. Maybe they shouldn't have put weird like traps in the open world, because I feel like when you're going super fast, the last thing you're like, oh great, I fell off this weird hill. Try to figure out on the way back up. Yeah. The next one is I think these are in the wrong order.
Chaos.
Yeah, no, you're right. Chaos Island. Which, what would you say about this? The Dark Island.
It's like the Volcano
Island. It's a sky above the cloud layer. It includes gray skies, lava, and other objects. The island is broken into smaller chunks where the player has to use sky rails to reach places, which I would consider this in a normal Sonic the Last World, really, because it's the volcanic ash. So when I got here, I was like, oh yeah, we're getting basically to the end already, man. So I was already getting prepared for like maybe one more big area and then a boss battle or whatever. I was wrong.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this island's darker tone and traversing this island?
I think my only complaint of this one is that there was such a big hole in the middle that, like, I would more often than not just, like, take the L and, like, run around the circle rather than trying to find, like, a sky rail system.
To try and figure out?
Like, yeah, and I think the big surprise that I really loved is that the big hole was actually where the boss takes place. I thought that was a really cool reveal, and to finally go down in there and actually, like, fight something in there and being able to go back up again was kind of a fun surprise, a fun reveal for the island itself. It's the one island, though, I very rarely return to for fun. Like, once I tap out and 100% it, I'm not going back to Chaos Island.
Right.
But isn't it in Sonic or Shadow Generations?
Yeah, right? I thought it was. Yeah. So
I think it is.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I like the look of the island. It has like these weird green toxic areas sometimes randomly put in there. It is a pain, and I think this is also the one that introduces the 2D Skyrail sections where you'll be randomly in a section and it turns into 2D gameplay, 2.5D.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought that was weird when they let them play it. They're like, what the?
Not perfect, a little janky, but, you know.
It worked.
It is what it is.
When you figure it
Sometimes
out.
Sometimes the camera would get stuck, though.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you'd be, like, playing a 2D section in 3D, and you're like, this is weird.
Right. No, I don't know if they patched it. I don't know if I haven't had issues with that, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully they did. The other one is Raya Island. Where is it at here? It's basically a tower. You're on the top of these towers, which honestly I thought was a really cool set piece. I wouldn't consider it its own island because there's no boss battles, no sub-boss battles, no like extra things. It's
no
really,
enemies, no
yeah,
items.
no enemies. You just go to these towers and you go to the top of it, which is really cool because you go so high that it really shows you the high. But I feel like this should have been a set piece, and that's it. Like, I wouldn't consider this its own world or island, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like the break, though. It was a nice breather after, going through these 3 islands, and you're like, oh man, Island 4, and then you're like, oh, nothing's here. It kind of reminds me, to bring up Phantasy Star Online again, after you beat Dark Fowls, and you're just like in the field of flowers, and there is nothing to hurt you. It's kind of a nice breather, and you get like you get challenged, but it's not like deadly. You're just trying to like make your way to the tops of the towers. It's more puzzly, and also the reward was like actual really cool lore. You're like, whoa, I'm learning about the origins of the Chaos Emeralds.
Right.
I got to get to the next tower.
Right.
Like, oh my God, Chao had human bodies and they looked like Chaos. That's why Chaos looked like a Chao. Oh my God. And Coco live inside of Chaos. Like, this is crazy. I really like that. What did you think of the revelation that the Chaos Emeralds are from, like, not Earth?
I thought that was pretty interesting. I usually hate the whole alien origins. I think they do it a lot. I think they did it with Shadow, but I think they did it good enough in this one to be like, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. And they weren't trying to do like, I don't know if I like the whole idea of Shadow alien. So is he now tied with the ancients too, or what?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I liked it, though. I like
really
this
aspect of it. I didn't like the Shadow aspect of it.
To me, the Chaos Emeralds always were in like special stages, which I saw as other dimensions. So it's like they already are otherworldly. So to say they didn't come from Earth isn't like a shocking revelation to me. What I did like is that the Master Emerald apparently is from Earth, or was like made to control the Chaos Emeralds. And it's kind of interesting because when you watch the Sonic movies, the Chaos Emeralds come from Sonic's world, but Sonic's world is not Earth. At least in the novelizations, it's called Mobius.
Right.
And yet the in Sonic 2 movie, the Master Emerald is hidden on Earth, and the Chaos Emeralds were sealed inside of it. So it's kind of funny how the Sonic movie, which predates Sonic Frontiers, actually has the same story for the Emeralds. They're from another planet. They came to Earth, and then the Master Emerald was here and controls them. So it's like, not shocking. I mean, Sonic calls himself an alien constantly.
Right.
In the movie. Because he technically is.
Technically in the movie he is. You're right.
Yeah.
So so at this point I was like, okay, we got some cool reveals. This does seem like the last centerpiece of the game. But then they're like, Kurono's Island. Did I say it right? Is the next island here?
Aranos.
Kuranos Island. Kuranos Island.
Is it Q? Is it Q?
Kuranos.
Right? Q or O?
It's a.
Oh, you put Q at the top.
I put nose.
Okay. Kuranos.
It looks like Kronos Islands because this is Kronos Island.
No, it's Oranos.
Yeah, Oranos.
Ouran. Oranos.
Right.
Yeah.
Oranos, yeah. Even though it's such a weird word. You want to think it's something totally different. I saw it like 15 times and I'm like, did I get that right? I even did the whole changing it. Anyway, even though I was kind of bored going through the same island again, they did use this island as the main base for the DLC that was to come in the future. But I sort of wish they kind of made, I don't know, give it like a fall weather, like just change the leaves and stuff. It would have been cool just having the same the same trees, but as a fall level. It would have gave it a little something nice to look for. Because right when I got to this, I was like, oh my god, dude. It's this island again, right? Like right when I got there, I was like, bro, they did this 2 times, 3 times. So, according to Sonic Team, the reason these islands got broken up into pieces was because people felt that Kronos was too big and too boring. So I guess they were like, let's just put all that content we put in there and cut it up and put it at the end of the game so you could slog through it after you get through the good stuff. So that they get you addicted with like 3 different worlds that look totally different and fast moving, and then they're like, all right, all that stuff we were going to cut out, here you go, in the end. What are your thoughts on these islands, and what do you think about the ending of this, like these repeated islands they did?
I don't mind that the game kind of goes full circle and brings you back to an island that's similar to the one you saw at the beginning of the game. Because I think the layout itself is different enough, the set pieces are different enough, and the enemies definitely are different enough to make it feel fresh and unique, but still familiar. It actually kind of reminded me of how in Sonic 2, Hilltop Zone looked like Emerald Hill Zone. Like they repeated a lot of assets, but it still felt like kind of like a little different, but a little, like you still were like, oh, okay, I feel like I'm back home again. It felt comforting and new at the same time. Do I wish it was something different? Like maybe, like, I don't know, it would have been cool if it was like in the clouds more, like floating island. I think they could have done that and it would have felt fresh and different. But I can't complain. I like this island. I do.
So all I would say is maybe it's because I was doing a review and I was like, oh my god, I can't hit the deadline, and I'm like, oh my god, they added another 10-hour island or 2 hours to the so I will say though, the game had people, I don't know, you tell me what you think about the cyber missions or space missions, cyberspace missions in these games, because I thought they have a pretty good idea of giving modern Sonic fans their cake and they can eat it too. So like, oh, you don't like this? Well, you could play old style stages with these cyberspace stages. And I thought that the ranking system was oddly enough addicting. I thought they were a little janky, sadly. Like a lot of stuff needed work. But I actually had fun trying to figure out the shortest routes possible. And when you died, it loaded up so fast. You didn't have to wait. It was like instant, which is incredible in these games when you have to do it over and over again to try to figure something out. But I liked it. Your opinions?
I thought cyberspace missions were fine. I don't think they were like the highlight of the game. I think they did need a little more polish. But, they gave you... What was wild to me is that if you watch a complete playthrough of every cyberspace stage and a complete playthrough of every Sonic Forces stage, it's like the same length.
Right.
It's like the fact that there is like if you removed cyberspace from this game, Frontiers would still be a big game. And the fact that they basically are the equivalent of playing Forces is just wild to me. It just shows how small Forces actually is.
Right.
But yeah, I think they're fine. And like I said, I think they were a good training ground for the level designers, and I'm looking forward to what they have next. I really hope that there is a Sonic Frontiers 2. I think it's a game that's worthy of just like a straight-up numbered sequel. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel every time. I don't think we need like another Sonic game with a whole new system in place. I think they could stretch this for 1 or 2 more games. But cyberspace would definitely need to be different.
Retooled.
I don't think it can... Yeah, retooled, for sure.
I think the idea of like giving you rankings and letting you share your rankings with other people on the internet and being able to see them do it is very cool, very interesting, really like bite-sized games. I like that. It kind of reminds me of mobile, so it's perfect for the Switch to go through cyber stages real quick because it's like 2 minutes. Another thing. So I don't know if you see this video, but what do you think about Big the Cat?
What even is here?
Who he hasn't?
I loved his return here.
He hasn't been in the game in a long time, right?
Not in the main series game. No, he's been like, I think he was an NPC in Sonic Colors on the DS, and then of course he was in a lot of the spin-off games. But remember, for a time, Sega told us, I think it was Ken Ballow, was like, no, Big is done. He's no longer in the franchise. And we were like, holy shit. But I like his implementation here. I like the fishing. I like the bizarreness of how hyper-realistic the things are that Sonic catches.
Right.
And it's a great way, again, if you're like just struggling and you're like, I just need one more key or whatever, like, you can buy a ton of stuff that you usually have to work to find, which is nice. So, yeah, I love the music, too, and I love the returning Sonic Adventure, like, little stings when you catch a fish.
This kind of reminds me of sort of like their idea of Sonic 06, where they try to make it more realistic, but it actually kind of worked in this because it's not as jarring.
Yeah.
So,
and also it's like they do that Yakuza thing too, where his eyes open,
right?
Which I thought was funny.
Outside of that, what happened to Big Fishing Adventure 3?
I think so that was a fan game that a lot of Sonic Retro people were working on. I think it became too big for its own good. I think there were different people who want it to be different things, like a visual novel, and other people were like, no, it's going to be like a bunch of mini games. And I think one team just took on too much or had to take a break, and it just is like, well, you can't release the game if it's only cutscenes,
right?
But I'm still in that private Discord for them, and no one posts in there. But yeah, I was going to be in that game. I was going to be the voice actor for Wes Weasley. Oh. And I even still have the audio files that I did.
Give us a little tease, just one word. We don't deserve it.
Oh,
we don't deserve it.
Oh, wait, how does... Oh, Wes Weasley? I can't do it. He's like... Sonic? Oh, Sonic! I did it very, like, I was very effeminate, and yeah.
Beautiful.
I can't do it right now. No.
You can't put him on the spot.
But the cool thing is the Big the Cat action figure that I own. He's actually right next to me here. It went to SEGA, the Sonic Studios in Burbank, California, and like did a photo shoot and then came home. I've never been in, but I have an action figure that visited like Sonic headquarters, which is kind of funny.
What, they didn't have their own or what?
So the people who were doing Big's Big Fishing Adventure didn't own the action figure, and it was kind of hard to find. It was getting kind of expensive. And so, and I can share with you in our little chat here. And so Big actually went to SEGA headquarters. There's a whole, like, there's 4 photos, and they did, like, a little photo shoot in the lobby with him. Just so silly.
Who did the photo shoot?
Skylar from Sonic Retro.
Nice. So are you happy that we got Big back and it wasn't a thing that
and he was like doing fishing mini games, which makes, perfect sense. But I will say, and we talk, people who will tell you that Big the Cat was the best thing in Sonic Adventure, that's not true. And in the Sonic community, we call that the big lie.
The
right?
big lie.
The big lie.
I'm part of the big lie. I perpetuate the big lie.
You perpetrate the big lies.
Yes.
Anyway,
so let's talk.
Register to vote.
All right. Let's talk about the final Horizon. It was a 2023 content roadmap. A first thing. So this is the first game to get a full year of free DLC, which included the playability at the end of new characters and a brand new ending that I guess Ian Flint said is what he always wanted to do. And it's always in the Sonic games where you have an ending and then you're like, now you have the final ending where everyone teams up in the end and it's like this big epic Fast and the Furious driving your car down a into space moment. In the end of the game got updated way more than promised, which is the opposite of what Sega and Sonic Team usually do. I will tip my hat to Sega for doing this. This is something that I have complained about the franchise not doing, just releasing the game, it pooping, and being like, these are the issues, and they go, okay, cool, anyway, buy the next game.
Team Sonic Racing is a prime example. They just released that, and it's like, this is a game made for DLC and made for improvements, and you just like farted it out. Come on.
So we got an image here of all the DLC, as you can tell. It's 3 updates. I will go through some of them. Maybe they won't be in order, but we got a jukebox, photo mode, new challenge, battle rush, and cyberspace challenges. Then we got a June.
Those are cool enough. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, most games won't even in Sonic. I mean, don't get that. So I'm like, okay, we're good now.
Yeah.
We got again in another update in June 23rd, 2023. We got a spin dash move, a new game plus. Sonic birthday celebration with new Coco's party hats, which is great. Birthday themed accessories for Sonic. Birthday themed decorations on Starfire Islands, which reminds me of Sonic Adventure when you bought the game and they had the DLC you could get on your VMU and changes things. So that I love that. Cool. Keep that up. Do it for future games. Action change challenge on the open. I haven't played this too much, but I'm assuming this is just when you chain attacks into a consecutive attack to go long, right?
They give you like a time span to like do things, like do a bunch of things, like battle as many enemies as you can with as many hits. And it's really weird because you're like running around in an open world going, where's the enemies? Come at me. Come on, where are you? You know?
Right.
But oddly enough, like there's tips and tricks people give where they're like, oh, you can easily do this if you find this certain enemy. So yeah, it's easy to spam, but it's fun to have a new challenge.
New collectible Cocos. I think this is something that they've always been doing. They've been adding them and sprinkling them around with new looks. You can customize the movement settings again and the toggleable skill camera. I think obviously if you play this game, I think everyone should go to the settings and make everything as responsive, like make the movement as responsive as possible. So right when you press left, you're already going right or left. You can make it way more responsive in the menus by making everything just go up.
Do you think that was an element from like debugging, and they were like, let's just let people have
what they want,
this option?
Yeah. I think so, and I think it's smart because I prefer it, but I'm sure there's someone online that's like, no, I prefer what it came out of the box, or someone's like, I like it slower when I turn.
I can understand that because it's like if you're gonna make the perfect Sonic game, just find the perfect settings. Don't like leave it to me to figure it out. But then again, if I buy a car, I'm gonna change where the seat and the steering wheel go.
Right.
You know, so why can't I do that with a video game?
Right.
So I appreciate it's more control than we've ever had in any platformer. Like Mario would never do this.
No. They already they got their system and that's it. So the last update came out, well, not the last update, but pretty close. September 28th, 2023. It was additional playable characters, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, new story content, and new abilities for each character. Personally, I think it's interesting that some of the bad guys got so overpowered that you wouldn't be able to beat them with these characters without like fighting forever, because some of them become like sponges for attacks, which is kind of annoying. Something that I think they should tone down. Punching things over and over again for a long time does not make the game harder. But yeah, they still need to work on Knuckles and all these characters. It's cool seeing them playable in this open world to play with, better than not having them. It's a free update. I just feel like they still need work, and I hope that they figure it out. I think Amy should be using her her hammer more, which she doesn't use that much here. But what about you? What do you think about this last, I think, massive update?
I mean, the whole thing was really cool. The fact that they gave you all this for free. Like, I before this, I was speculating, I'll do paid DLC. I'll give them money. And they're like, no, Barry, keep your money. Yeah. It's okay. We charged you for Super Sonic in Sonic Forces, and we apologize.
You funded this with those purchases.
Yeah, kickstarted.
Isn't it crazy that the other one was Super Sonic paid for, and this one is, look at all this free stuff you got?
I think they learned their lesson. I'm surprised, though, that they've never done a everything on disc, like, Game of the Year edition later on. Like, it really kind of screams that.
Like a double
I'm
dip
surprised
for
they
fans?
didn't do that this year. Yeah, just like, oh, the game's repressed with all the DLC on disc and new cover art. Like, enjoy.
Featuring all the characters that are playable. Like, that would sell it more. Like, now playable. Moms will think it's a new game.
I'm surprised they didn't, but what they did do, I really appreciate it. I've never actually finished Final Horizon because I feel like I played Sonic Frontiers so much from 2022 to 2023, and then like this came, and I'm like, I'm gonna take a little break, and I think I'm like 70% through it. So I really should spend like before, I guess not, I only have a few weeks now, but maybe before the year ends. Complete it, but I really appreciate what they did, and it is weird playing as these characters in 3D again after so many years, and they don't feel perfect, and it's kind of weird that they can't do everything that you're used to them doing, but it is cool to play as them.
Outside of this, there was a holiday suit, status map, and
that.
Tracking progression, Frontier's master outfit, 24 songs added in total to the jukebox, and various of life improvements. Sonic Team, I think, should be keeping this. I think they're getting a little greedy with the Yakuza franchise a little bit, and I think they should maybe start thinking about adding little quality of life updates for free on these other games too.
Yeah.
So Sonic Team did it right this time. Good job to them. I still think that this is a good test for the new system. But let's talk about one image I have right here. What do you think about this image? This soap shoes. Do you think?
I thought that was a really cool addition. But it was a newsletter item, right?
And I'm like wondering. It's like it was free, so it's like, you think this sold enough? What do you think about soap shoes, and what do they mean to you? Did you have soap shoes when the game came out?
No, I always wanted to buy a pair, but I never bought them. But yeah, it was a weird thing, like Pogs, just like grinding on rails with shoes, and I watched videos of it, and I'm like, oh, it's actually very difficult to do. I don't want to try that. That looks like very painful.
I used to know someone that had one in like middle school, and they would like try to grind on, like they had the wax in their pocket, you know what I'm talking about, and they would like wax up the the bench, and I'm like, cool, like people sit there, you know that, right? And you're just like,
I think Sonic should get those little Heelys shoes with the wheels.
Oh yeah.
I think that would be better.
Isn't that what Shadow has though, technically?
Kind of, yeah. But no, I thought it was a cool addition, and they're going to do that again with Sonic and Shadow Generations with, what is it? I think it's the Sega Saturn skin for Classic Sonic, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then the pre-order is the Sonic Adventure Sonic. So you'll be able to play the game as Sonic Adventure Sonic, Sega Saturn Sonic Jam Sonic, and like concept art Shadow, which is just wild to me.
I was kind of hoping that they did like a classic Shadow, but it's really just what's her name, Maria. You play as Maria.
Oh, you play as Maria? Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
In the past, back in the past.
Yeah, well, everything was 2D in the past.
That's what I'm saying. So you're gonna talk about your Sonic Frontiers merch. Oh my God, someone's gonna show off.
Oh
the only thing,
my God,
the only thing I own
What's
is
that?
the vinyl. I don't know if you own that.
Yeah, it's funny. So they had several vinyl releases. There was one that was like the whole soundtrack, an epic, big, multi-disc, like hundreds of dollars. I didn't get that. And I did order the music from Starfall Islands one, because I was like, well, if I'm going to get anything, I'll get that. That's a cool, like, single. Is it single or double LP with, like, just the island music? Pre-ordered it on Amazon, and then it just got canceled. Like, Amazon never got it. So they were like, well, we're not going to sell it to you. And I'm like, well, oh well. So I never got it. I've been meaning to, but
I got
it's not like it's
the big Starfall one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, you can't see it because it's
with each island on disc.
Yeah. I bought this. I
Wow.
pre-ordered it, and I forgot I pre-ordered it, but thankfully I did because I didn't know it was going to be like rare. That's the only thing I actually bought.
That's the is that the 2L? No, that's not the 2LP. That's the big one.
Yeah, it's the big one. The one with the 4, and it comes in a box. That yeah, it's interesting.
The 2LP Data Discs has, and that's it's just like mixes of the island stuff, which I think is cool. I'll probably get that eventually, but
I think it might be. Go on. I'm listening.
What I did get, so I pre-ordered from Japan, and I can't remember what the edition came with, but what I do remember it having, it had this like mini magazine, which I guess is like a travel, like I think these exist in Japan for like real places, and it's like a travel log, but it's got maps of the islands, it's got pictures from the islands, but it's written more like you're visiting the place, and it also has, like, interestingly, like real world.
Oh,
so
nice.
Like fields of poppies and like solar fan, or not solar, but like fields of wind farms, and then it's interesting. It's got like going to go eat with a plush of Sonic. Like, I don't really know the context behind this book. It's really weird, but it's a Tokyo chili dog guy.
It reminds
which
me,
is like, okay.
It reminds me of how they promoted Forces when they went to Hooters and they had the Sonic plushies everywhere. Is that a Japanese thing?
Yeah. And then I got this. I'll show this first. This came also with the Japanese pre-order. It was, and I don't have it out of the plastic right now, but it's the Art of Sonic Frontiers. So it's a thin, it's not that thick, but it is a big art book. So this is really cool. And then I ordered this from Famitsu. It's like a player's guide, and I'm always a sucker for like guides. And I bought the Generations one that they did in America. I think Prisma or something did it, which is so cool. And they haven't done one since. I really wish this had a American version, but it does have a poster of the cover art, like a huge poster. And then it also has, like maps of all the islands, which I think is really cool. Obviously, I can't read it, but it's kind of helpful, I guess. And then as far as like the games itself, like I have the American releases for Xbox and Switch. But then the Japanese release for PS4 has this really cool cover art.
The other key art,
and
not the grinding one.
Yeah, and then on the inside, it has like the cover art for America,
but like the long form.
And then, and then it has all these like little pieces of paper. I love like there's like it's not a manual, but it's like a little folded piece, like a how to play guide. It has an ad for the Sonic 2 movie, which was Sonic versus Knuckles, and then it has DLC, which I obviously can't redeem, but maybe I can, and I'm wondering what the DLC is. I don't think it's like that Dog Girl. Remember the Dog Girl DLC?
Yeah.
And then lastly, not lastly, for the games though, I have there's 2 steel books. So there's the one
that Best Buy
with Sonic running. Yeah, this is the Best Buy one, I think. And I love this cover art. I think this is so cool. And then this is, I think, GameStop I could be wrong.
Nice.
Or Target, but it's just the logo. And I don't know, like, I've started buying steelbooks from Sega games as they release because they're typically very cheap. You can go to Best Buy and buy them on their own for like $10 or $20.
Yeah.
And then lastly, there is a Sage plush. I don't have it, but I think it's cute. And then they did this statue, which you can actually still get. It's not expensive at all. It's like $20 or $30. It's plastic. But it's cool. It's got him doing his grumpy face and protecting the Coco. And then what I thought was interesting is they did an action figure, and it's not marketed as a Sonic Frontiers one, but he's doing the face.
Oh, yeah.
And he's doing the pose. So, anyway, that's the merch. I think if we do see, like, Sage as an action figure, it's going to be a while because they're just now releasing Fang.
Right.
And I don't know, and that's in the 2.5-inch scale. So I think if they're going to make a Sage one, it's probably going to be like next year or the year after that. But yeah,
and
so that's the merch.
And here pictured is just the LP. It is 4 LP. There was one with 2. You're right, and then there was one with 4, which was like 115, which usually don't. But I knew if I didn't buy this that it was going to sell out because they usually sell out.
FOMO.
So I was just like, I'll pick it up. I don't want to deal with it. And if I do want to get rid of it, I could just sell it on the eBay. So let's talk about advertisements for this game. We're not going to see the whole Digital Divergence animated short. I think you guys should watch it. It's 6 minutes long, but we'll talk about it and play it in the back a little bit. What do you think about this being the intro for most people for the game, an animated thing? And this is something that's been going on since Sonic Mania Adventures, doing this animated promotional. What do you think about them, and why haven't they translated this to like a Prime? Like Sonic Prime is nothing like what these animations are.
You know, it's a good question. I'm surprised they haven't teamed up with like an anime studio and did a proper like Sonic series. Like I guess the closest thing was Sonic X, and that was, you know, the quality was hit or miss. Mm-hmm. The closest thing now, though, is the Shadow one they're doing. I actually haven't watched it yet, but I know there's going to be 3 parts, and they're like 5 minutes each, and that's like a short film when you combine them all. But yeah, I think it's cool. I like that they're free and like you can watch them, but I really wish they would include them in the releases themselves. I think, especially with this one, where it actually ties into Knuckles' story, would be smart. I appreciate that. I think, you know, people give Sonic Origins some grief. I love it, but what I really love is that it actually includes all the Sonic Mania adventures on
disc.
Well, actually, I shouldn't say on disc because
it's DLC.
Right? Isn't it DLC?
I think
like
so.
Sonic Origins? I think it is. But in any case, I'm glad that it's on there. I think it's cool. So yeah, it's like do more. Do more and actually like make these things like I don't know, like a full TV series. I don't know why they're holding off. Why do you have to do like Sonic Prime when you can do a Sonic anime?
Hopefully, when they are done in the whatever years they've done so many of them, they do a Blu-ray or some sort of release where they have like behind the scenes on the animators and what their thought process into what we did. This thing, you know, this relationship, Amy and Metal Sonic, because it's never been done before, and we approached it in this certain way. And what did we do to design new clothing? That would be interesting to see. Let's look at some of the commercials here now. The first one we have is it has Queen. I don't know if I should mute. I'm gonna play it, and hopefully they don't. It's the commercial. Come on, don't attack us. It's used, so it has. This one features Queen, a little band.
Oh, it has Queen. I think we'll get dinged for it, 100%.
If we could just replace the audio. So if it's replaced and it's not Queen, it's because we got dinged. So here we go.
Gotta go faster, Mom.
Did you stop for snacks?
Alright. So, I think they did a good job showing the new moves of Sonic, trying to show you there's more to him now in this game by having the person running, the mom. in this, or was it the mom? And she gets there and she has a chili dog, so that's it reminds me more of Nickelodeon weird, where it's for children.
It does.
Than it is like old Sega of America weird. It's more like not MTV weird. It's Nickelodeon weird. All that weird.
I thought it was, including Queen too, is kind of wild because that was from the Sonic movie,
right?
Where he's like holding the turtle. So it's like between that and like the Blue Energy thing. Like I'm really surprised that they've been adapting movie Sonic stuff, and then with Sonic and Shadow Generations straight up having a stage taking place from the movie. It's just really crazy that they are embracing it so much. But that we didn't watch it, but that debut trailer, the release day one with Queen, I think that's one of the strongest like Sega trailers I saw, next to the Bayonetta one where it's like going in for the kill, you know, that one.
Yeah.
Like those are some of my favorite trailers. I think they're just it's like such a fun trailer for such a mopey game.
Oh yeah,
but it works, you know, and it makes you excited for Sonic, like big AAA Sonic games coming back.
Also, it's hard to believe this kid's sister. I mean, mom. I was like, nah.
That's his girlfriend.
That's what I was gonna say. This next one is a gift-giving infomercial Sega of America did to promote it, sort of to do their Sonic 2 Day infomercial or whatever with the in the 90s. So let's play it.
Not all gifts are created equal. This holiday season, give the gift they really want. Experience Sonic like never before in his newest high-speed adventure.
Looks beautiful.
Weird music choice.
Right. It's like punk. It's rock. Pop.
No, this is from...
No, it's... isn't this the one they remixed?
At a great price for a limited time.
Dun, dun. That's from Colors, isn't it?
They even did the...
No, it's from Unleashed. It's from Alaska.
Yeah, and they also... I don't know. I thought they did a good job. I thought they had a little cool references. They did cool boss graphic... Like, the graphics look really good in the trailer. I mean, in the infomercial.
Right.
They had a chili dog reference again, which I think is going to be one of those things where we're like, all right, guys, we got it. But regardless,
get it.
The fan base loves it and they eat it up. This is a cool infomercial, not as good as Sonic Mania one, but pretty good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the last one is a Japanese one. This one has some subtitles. It's not that great of a commercial, in my opinion. You tell me. We'll play it.
Let's check it out.
It's pretty sad. It's like a anime sad scene where the character's about to cry.
And Sage is talking, yeah. Oh, I love running towards the moon. That was so fun.
What feeling?
It reminds me of those poems they would put on the covers of Sonic games.
Right, where it's like, if you want to live life, live it now, because there's no tomorrow or something. Yeah.
I think the coolest moment in this is when it's Sonic running sideways and it cuts between all the
islands,
different environments. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the best part of the whole thing. I agree 100%. It's like, it really shows you like, okay, it's beautiful. They got like the most beautiful scenes, like one with the shadow where it's like a sunset. So they did a good job.
Running towards the moonlight stuff is so pretty.
Right.
I always like the moonlight.
So this game, yeah, besides it being a weird, like kind of emo, like sad, cool shots in my directed shots. But anyway, overall, thoughts on how Sega promoted Sonic Frontiers, and what do you think they could have done better?
I think on the American side, they skewed towards like goofy fun, and maybe that might have become a bait and switch for some people who pick it up and they're like, oh, this is really mopey. Where's the fun stuff? Where's the wackiness? And so I hope people, like, I don't know, I hope Sega doesn't respond by being like, all right, we're going to go back and make a wacky game. But yeah, I think the Japanese one, for as like, I don't know, it feels a little like cold and kind of serious, but it suits the game itself.
Right.
So yeah, it's hard to say. I still love that the launch one with the Queen music, but having said that, I do wish they maybe, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I wish they'd treat things a little more seriously on the America side. Like they're always making like wacky infomercials and stuff, and it's like, and making memes, and I'm like, all right, like let's cool it. I want more stuff like the prologue animation where you treat the story and the situations like as serious as the game itself does, because then that's going to hook people.
The Queen one really didn't do that. It's like, it's going to be a good time, basically, is the whole aspect
I know.
of it, right?
I mean, playing it was a good time,
I agree.
But the story itself was did not bring that. So
I think they did a good enough job bringing drama to a game where you're playing a blue hedgehog that goes really fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think they did fine. I think it's hard to promote these games. I think we're at a point in video games where you don't announce a game that takes too long to come out. You want to have it like 3 months tops. Like that Majima game is going to come out like in months. They barely announced it. And then because people have short attention spans, if you say 5 years ago this game's coming out and then you keep delaying it, it's going to be not good for you.
Oh my God.
It's like that.
I just saw today that Batman Part 2 comes out in 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like
Jesus, I'm watching Penguin right now, and I'm like, oh man.
So
2 years.
Yeah, wait. I think that's how it is nowadays. I think most people like the idea of like a game like it's coming out in 3 years. People are not gonna care. You have to harness the attention in a 3 months, 6 month span maximum. We don't have the attention span we used to have, so I think they did good for what the time period they have. The animated movie was taken very, very positively by Sega fans, especially people of Sonic Adventure and the lore behind Knuckles.
Yeah. I
think they kind of tied enough to open it up for a future, bigger franchise. There's a lot of stuff they hear that it's kind of like what's the name from Star Wars, J.J. Abrams. He just like leaves boxes that you could open. They left a few boxes here, for them to expand on. So it would be interesting to see the future of the franchise. And
for sure,
highly recommended, right? Game.
Yeah, 100%. I think this was a smart direction to take the franchise. It's kind of wild how it feels like an old game to me now, like 2 years ago, but it's the most recent Sonic game, and it's really going to, chart the direction for the future of the game. So we don't even know what the future is yet, because right now we're still looking backwards, I guess, with Sonic and Shadow Generations being the equivalent of like both a new game and a remaster, which is kind of wild to me. But I'm going to pay a lot of attention to Shadow Generations, because I think that's going to give us a really good idea of what the future is, and from what it looks like, they are going to have an open world island that accesses stages that are actually very meaty and not just like cyberspace. And I think that might be the future, like smaller open worlds but then meatier stages, and overall the game itself might be shorter, but it's going to feel like a real like experience instead of a smartphone game brought to to consoles.
Kind of like a Sonic Adventure point. Like Sonic Adventure actually had things you could do on the in the open world. Like the open world was pretty bland.
Right.
This game had a lot more things.
Yeah, like in Sonic Adventure, I think you collected 2 keys and that was it.
Yeah.
Like,
so
not too much going on. You didn't even have an item inventory. You would carry the thing to one place to another. But yeah, I think Sonic Team should be applauded for what they did here. Like, it was a really big lift for a team that honestly could have just farted out another Forces, because Forces did really well sales-wise. And they could have kept it up, but it also would have hurt the brand overall. And I think over time they would have found that they, it could have killed the franchise if they just kept releasing Forces quality games. So, we do have some Patreon memories, George. But first, let's take a listen to what Daniel Andres, our Patreon picker, has to say on this, our 150th episode. Hey there, George and Barry. It's been a while since I've made one of these. I just wanted to say thank you again for picking this game and reading through my memories. I feel incredibly honored and humbled for this, considering that this game has done for my mental health overall, which is what we will get into as I write this. George, Barry, you guys should probably take turns reading my forthcoming novel on Sonic Frontiers here, or even read what I had written here throughout the episode. Alright, here we go. So I'm sure most of us remember Sonic Central way back in June of 2021 when this game first got announced. Back when it was still under the codename Sonic Rangers, or at least it was shortly after that. At that time, I didn't know how to feel about the game or what to expect. In fact, I remember feeling very neutral and modest towards the announcement, simply because there wasn't much to see yet. It was just a short teaser trailer, and I feel as though a lot of people either judged what they saw early on too harshly, or were blindsided by it being a great game, especially after we saw gameplay footage of it just a couple of months afterwards. By now, I consider this game to be a Sonic game masterpiece, but we'll get to that part later. I remembered that when the gameplay footage was shown, the IGN one, I figured that the game was still in early development, or the person playing it was just taking their sweet time on purpose. But no, the entire internet had to freak out over it, and it made me feel incredibly nervous. In fact, build-up or hype to this game was indeed incredibly nerve-wracking. Nobody had any true idea of how it was going to turn out, except for the people who had tested it, and their opinions were all over the place. SEGA should have released a free demo for Sonic Frontiers in the summer of 2022 to help most of everyone get a clearer idea of how this game was going to turn out. I do believe that it would have soothed a lot of people's anxieties. When the game finally released, I ordered it via Target pickup order. It was for the Xbox Series X, and I barely got a copy. I remember the sales clerk telling me that I was incredibly lucky and that people were going crazy over picking it up early that morning. I'm pretty sure I got the last copy that Target had, if I can remember right. I drove home that morning, popped the game in, and thankfully I had practically the whole day to myself. And as soon as I cleared through the first cyberspace stage, I was crying tears of joy. I couldn't believe it. I can hardly believe it. After 20 long years, it's finally here, a 3D Sonic game that feels more like the adventure games all over again, but with so much more to it. No, it's not Sonic Adventure 3. It doesn't need to be. It proved itself to be incredibly good without having to be titled Sonic Adventure 3. It may not be that game, and that's okay. It's also a really good placeholder until we eventually do get Sonic Adventure 3. However, right now, I think this is more crucial and important that we get Sonic Frontiers 2 next. We really should, and I'll touch more on that later. Yes, this game is incredible. I felt as though it was a masterpiece, and at the time, I honestly could not understand how this game was not already receiving 10 out of 10s. It does everything right for 3D Sonic as of right now. Iizuka wanted a game that captures the same impact as Sonic Adventure did, and I believe that he accomplished that. He truly did care deeply about the performance and development of this game. Sonic Team was far from done. After the game was released, I haven't finished the final horizon yet, but so far it's awesome, and that final boss looks freaking awesome as well. Like I mentioned earlier, Sonic Frontiers boosted my mental health. After experiencing through the first island of the game, I had decided to sell off everything Sonic that I actually didn't like all that much. Comic, games, toys, yeah, it helped me realize that this was honestly enough, and that's okay. It's so disappointing, frustrating, and heartbreaking to see some people shit-talk this game. Yes, at the end of the day, it's their opinion, and that's okay. However, this game should be showered in love and gratitude, and thankfully it has been. Don't get me wrong, it isn't perfect, but what game truly is, what product of piece of art is, it's still incredibly good, and that's okay. It doesn't really matter how others feel about it. I don't give a rat's ass. To quote Reggie Fils-Aimé, if the game isn't fun, why bother? Well, thankfully, this game has a huge fun factor, and that's all that matters here. Okay, as for the story and plot, it's not for everyone. Much like the game itself, it's not perfect. I can understand if people have felt frustrated with it not seemingly having much progression. Well, that's basically false, because it does, through character development. The character development in this game is just sheerly incredible. It's so damn important that the Sonic game series overall. Seeing each character becoming more independent and going on their own path is exciting, and I would love to see that expanded on. Sage is also incredibly important to this game, and she is already a huge fan favorite. The lore building in this game is also incredibly important. Oh my god, that needs to be expanded on for future Sonic titles, for sure. As for the landscaping scenery, though, we don't need to return to cyberspace for a Frontiers 2. Instead, give us a true open-world Sonic game where you can literally travel the planet of Sonic, Earth, Mobius, Sonic's World, whatever, and visit a ton of different locations from past games. Maybe there's a way to also visit Angel Island, Little Planet, and the Death Egg, either via a patch-in later on or DLC. If Sonic Team can pull that off, and if they do it right, we could inevitably get the ultimate best Sonic game. Also, I'm happy that we got 2 transformations for Sonic in this game. I would love to see Hyperforms return sometime, but having something new and unique is always a pleasure as well. I love Super Sonic as much as the next guy, but he has been playable during the main game in every Sonic game recently, resulting in the form feeling kind of stale as of recent. Variety is good, and so is change. Let's not forget that. Okay, moving on to voice acting now. I'm not the biggest fan of the current English voice acting cast. However, I clearly recognize talent when it's good. That is for sure this time around. I am not the biggest fan of how Roger Craig Smith sounds for Sonic specifically, nor Colleen O'Shaughnessy for Tails. Along with the other cast members, however, this game is by far their best performance, and that should not be unrecognized. I do like these actors outside of Sonic on other products, and I'm happy that Roger is a hugely positive guy to the community. If the Sonic cast was to get replaced, he should still be on for a different character. However, I'm still not the biggest fan of the English cast, and I have played 90% of this game in Japanese. I am also so happy that Ian Flynn was chosen this time to execute the story, and all the Easter eggs and references are great. And they aren't super easy going to a first-time fan. The gameplay is accessible to all, which is great, and I love the skill tree concept. However, if you're new to the series, you're not going to get all of the references, which is unfortunate. However, it's great for someone like me who has seen the franchise grow and struggle ever since as early as 1998. That's almost 30 years for me. Now, as for the vocal songs, not only are the boss fights god tier to the Sonic series, but so are the songs that go with them. Singing on Keelan Quinn to do Undefeatable, Break Through It All, and Find Your Flame was one of the coolest decisions that SEGA and Sonic Team could have ever made. These songs are nothing short of amazing and honestly helped me through some recent tough battles in my personal life. And it's also so badass that Kellen Quinn got to sing Live and Learn with Johnny Gioli. That is history right there, folks, matter of fact. Sonic Frontiers isn't my favorite game of all time. It isn't even my favorite Sonic game, but it is a product that I recognize is important to the franchise that I and many other gamers dearly love oh so very fondly. The movies, comics, shows, and merchandise are all performing equally as well, but they're not in the same series. The games are, and so when it comes to Sonic the Hedgehog as a franchise, the games absolutely need to do well in order to continue. It's also incredible that the first Sonic movie helped inspire the outcome to this game. Yes, I'm obviously a huge Sonic Frontiers defender, and you know what? I couldn't be prouder. Hopefully this helped move someone who had either read through or listened to what I had to express about this game, and to think that it's just the beginning of the future of 3D Sonic. For the longest time, I wanted another Sonic game to have the same kick-ass punk rock energy that Sonic Adventure 2 has, and we finally have that. It's this game, Sonic Frontiers. Not only that, this game has the exact same potential to inspire a whole new generation of Sonic fans, just like Sonic Adventure 2 did. And so far, I've been seeing that. I do believe that this is fair to say, and so far, this is the true third generation of defining Sonic game, next to the likes of Sonic 1 and Sonic Adventure 2. I know there's still a lot more to see for Sonic, and that this formula can be expanded on, much like what's been happening with the Yakuza franchise and Persona franchise. If it is a soft reboot to the series overall, and that's okay, it's one that I welcome, with nothing but warm and positive emotions. George Barry, I owe you so much more than my thanks if you have to read all that. Thank you guys so much. And those are Daniel's memories. Thank you so much for sharing those. And next up we have Michael S., who says, the open world was the best part, along with the optional bosses. There were also some harder platforming areas that weren't required that I liked. The character's boss story were forgettable. Also, combat was way too easy. But as a kid's game, my son loves it, enjoys to explore, and of course, go fast. And then we also have a memory here from, Ando, who says, Well, it was a fun experience on its own. I'm more excited for what Sonic Team will do with this new formula. Now that they have a good base, I'm hoping for momentum-based movement and some more classic-looking world design. So those are our memories.
I kind of hope they have a kind of like more classic look in the future. But as far as like as far as the other stuff, I don't know if they'll ever do that, but we'll see.
Would be
like
nice.
the momentum based thing has been talked about by fans for so long that I'm like, I have to see it to believe it. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, on the next episode 151, I'm going to be talking about important and weird console accessories.
Oh.
So we're going to be going through Sega consoles and talking about important and weird accessories for each of them. And maybe I'll even see what George wants to share on his own, because, you never know what weird things he's used. The trance vibrator, we'll talk about that.
Trance vibrator next time on Sega Talk. Bye.
Bye.
My girl.